Hello and welcome again to another episode of Battle Ready.
Ready.
And today we thought we'd talk about the new Seraphon. Now this is the Seraphon book from the box set, so yours might look a little different. Yours might be have the picture of the Agrodon on it or whatever. Yeah. Same stuff inside. So we thought we'd give our review of what it's like, what's changed from the last book, and then also, as we always do, what if you've got a friend that wants to play and says, hey, really looking at those Seraphon. Is it a good army to start Warhammer with? So Drake, let's talk about what it is. What are the Seraphon like?
To put it simply, techno lizards riding dinosaurs.
Techno lizards riding dinosaurs. Yeah, what's really interesting about the Seraphon is they really come sort of in two very distinct flavors, right? There's coalesced, which are big beefy lizards who smash. And then there are starborn, which are big or smaller magic lizards that magic. Well, they can smash too, I suppose.
Magic smash.
So there's a little bit of that. So first, I thought we'd talk about if you have some experience with the Seraphon, if you've played them before, what has changed? Now, this isn't a deep dive. We're not going to talk about tournament meta or competitiveness necessarily. This is more what has changed in the feel of them. What's better? Are there things that are worse? That sort of thing. So Drake, what do you think? What are some of the biggest changes?
The summoning works differently, I think.
Summoning does work a lot differently, and now it has to do with
cosmic power points.
Spells that your guys. So Tzeentch gets points for any spells, right? You get cosmic power points for spells you cast and for spells you unbind. So it's like, when your wizards are doing cool stuff, then
don't you get bonus points for having certain models?
I think for having an Astrolith bearer, you do get a point. Although I can't remember if that's true or not, so I have to look at the book.
Yep.
But so that is a little bit different. And I think I think one of the things that's very different is in the old version there was a distinction between Starborn and Coalesce, for sure, but it wasn't that big a distinction. I feel like Starborn before was heavy magic and then you summon stuff, and then the Coalesced was you bring a bunch of monsters. And now I feel like it's like there are definitely units that are Starborn and units that are for Coalesced, and there's not a whole lot of overlap.
Yeah,
there's certainly some. There are certainly units that work in both types for sure, but there's not a whole lot of overlap.
Yeah.
A lot of skinks work great in a Starborn list, but aren't as good in a Coalesced list. Yeah. And the other way around too. A lot of Saurus work great in a Coalesced list, aren't actually that great in a Starborn list.
Yeah.
So I think that is true. I think you have to be a little bit more careful with your list building and what kind of units you want to put on the field. I think that's for sure true. What are the big changes?
Models.
Oh, yes. You got new models. For sure. So they got rid of a lot of the old sculpts.
Cold ones got
basically booted. All the resin stuff is out.
Yeah.
So new Croxagores, so they used to have a unit called Salamanders. That unit doesn't exist anymore, but it's been replaced by what was the new one called?
Spawn of Chotek?
Yeah, the Spawn of Chotek. So it has the same role, it has the same footprint. If you have Salamanders, you can just say it counts as the Spawn of Chotek. It's totally fine. But it's plastic, right? And the Salamanders were resin. So they basically got rid of, there's a new Slan Starmaster. Get rid of the resin one, now you got a plastic one. So they got rid of basically all that, and they even updated some of the old plastic ones, like Saurus Warriors. Not the Temple Guard, unfortunately, but the Saurus Warriors did get updated. So yeah, that is definitely good. So if you want to play with some of the best looking, because all the new models look fantastic, I think.
Yeah.
So if you want to play with some of the best looking, newest, most updated models,
get those techno lizards.
Seraphon's got a lot of that. Yep. Seraphon's got a lot going on. And even the stuff that hasn't been updated, with the possible exception of the Temple Guard, it all looks good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the skinks aren't the most dynamic and interesting and coolest models, but they're fine.
Yeah.
They're fine. There's nothing wrong with them. They don't look ugly. You won't be embarrassed when you put your, blocks of skink on the table. It's fine. They're fine. One of the things that I was pretty struck by is I think that they, um, yeah, I said it before, but just how different Coalesced and Starborn is. Our favorite way to play Seraphon prior to this book was Thunder Lizards. We would just bring all our monsters; they'd all get extra health.
Two Bastillodons, Connoisseur, and Spitterboy.
It was just super fun. And now Thunder Lizards aren't super great. I feel
you
like
get 2 monstrous actions.
Yeah, but I don't know. I feel like they're not super great. I'm not excited to play Thunder Lizards. Um, but I don't know. I feel like a lot of the improvements that they made were really good. They kept in so during one of the in the old book, if you were coalesced, you got -1 damage taken.
Yep.
Then a battle scroll, they said, okay, that's only for Saurus, Croxagores, and monsters.
Yeah.
So skinks don't get the damage reduction, and now that's in the book. The book has kept that rule going, which again, skinks tend to be on the Starborn side, right? So if you bring a skink into coalesced, it doesn't get the ability.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like this. It's sort of pushing you. If you go coalesced side, you want Saurus, not skinks, to maximize those kinds of things. Same thing with the jaw attacks. You get bonus jaw attacks in coalesced, but skinks don't even have jaws. They've got little gums, little toothless gums. So there's lots of things like that.
Because those claw buffs that.
Yeah. So I just think it's very interesting. Now, how about on the table? Do you think they're funner or less fun? And Drake has played twice against them, once with them, and then opposite for me, obviously. What do you think?
I feel like, especially Coalesced, they play basically the same. I don't see any major differences.
Yeah, from what we were playing with Thunder Lizards going into the Coalesced, now we have a lot of the same models, obviously.
Yeah.
We can't say, we don't have everything new that's come out, but we have a lot. I mean, we proxied in some Agrodons, right? We're using the new Croxagores, at least the new rules for the Croxagores.
I'm not using the new Croxagores.
So, we've got a good flavoring of it. One thing I think is interesting is I feel like the coalesced version of it, which is my favorite actually between the two of them. I like coalesced a lot more. But I feel like coalesced feels more straightforward. And you don't have to worry about zapping people with your space laser terrain piece, because coalesced doesn't do that. You don't have to worry about bringing in the right people to sit inside that, because it's not a garrison anymore for anything. You just sort of like play Warhammer. You move your guys, you do your flanks, you have your things coming up. And I like that the monsters, at least the Troglodon and the Carnosaur, get terror, where you can't inspire presence if you're next to them.
They turn into ghosts.
Yeah, they're like the Night Hunt power, which is super cool because, if a giant dinosaur is nomming on you and you just saw your friend get eaten, an inspiring speech isn't going to stop you from running.
Yeah.
You're like, those are pretty words, dude, but I'm out. I'm gone. Starborn, on the other hand, is very different. Just very different. It's super spell focused, because that's how you get your points. And the points are going to be used to summon units, right? And so you've got a lot of spell casting. You don't have a lot of non-spell, because at least in my list, so the Starborn list I did, I had a Slan Star Master, I had Croak, I had an Astrolith Bearer, I had the Oracle. You add all that up, that's like 1,000. That's a half the army at least, maybe a little bit more. So then you just don't get a lot of other guys to do stuff with. So I think that overall, I really like the Seraphon. I also feel like they feel like giant dinosaurs doing stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just stomping around and murdering and biting and ripping people in half. I think they're cool. What about a friend comes to you, Drake? Says, I want to try to start doing this Warhammer thing, this Age of Sigmar thing I've heard so much about. I'm not sure what to start with, but I'm thinking maybe Seraphon. What would you say?
This one, I would say, I would give it worse than Daughters of Cain. Not sure how much worse.
Really? Interesting. Why?
First, it depends on what army they're going to play. If they're going to play Coalesced. Because that's essentially a sub-faction in its own right. And then, because of that, you have sub-factions of sub-factions. And then, after that, if they're new to Warhammer, they're not going to realize that, Saurus are bad in Starborn and Skinks are bad in Coalesced. And so I think if they start with Seraphon and don't know what they're doing, like they haven't played any other war games, and they don't realize certain combos will work good, they're not gonna have a good time, and they might want to stop.
So I mostly agree with you. I think that the division between Starborn and Coalesced is so stark that it creates a bunch of traps, right?
Yeah, for new players.
For new players, right? New player says, I want to do a Starborn list, and then they get a big Carnosaur because how cool is that model? Well, it doesn't really work good in that list. Or they say, I want to do Coalesced, and then they say, oh, you know what? Skinks are great. They're only 85 points. I'll get a bunch of Skinks. Well, they're not super good in Coalesced units, right? They lose a lot of their utility.
Yeah.
So I think that if somebody wants to start with Seraphon, they need a friend to sort of sit them down and say, all right, this is the big divide. You're not really buying. It's almost like you're not getting one army.
Yeah.
You're getting two. And you need to sort of decide up front, do you want to do a Starborn or a Coalesced and then go? Because I think if you decide Coalesced and then somebody can sort of help you avoid the traps so you just get good Coalesced stuff, I think it'll be great, right?
Yeah.
Starborn, I think, is a little trickier because of how magic focused it is. But I think if someone can help you avoid the traps so you just get a bunch of good units that work in Starborn, I think that could be great.
Yeah, you just need someone.
You need a Sherpa.
Yeah.
You need a guide. You need somebody who can take you through that mountain range. So if you have that, then I think Seraphon is fabulous.
You need a Gandalf.
You need a Gandalf, right?
For the first half,
taking you through Moria. But if you don't have that, gosh, it's really hard to say, yeah, just go get some Seraphon stuff. It'll be fine. It'll be great. Super fun.
I mean, you can do that with Gloomspite because you can buy.
Well, yeah, we're not talking about Gloomspite. I know you always like to bring up Gloomspite. But on Seraphon, and I think that's actually the one downside about the new Seraphon book, because in the second edition book, I felt like you could sort of tell people that. Just get whatever you want, put it all together, it'll be fine. And now, I don't know that I would feel comfortable saying. I feel like, no, you really need some guidance. And because of that, if you end up with an army that's like half Saurus and half Skink, and you sort of don't know which way to go, that army is going to be, you're not going to have as many good experiences on the tabletop.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, is it good for a new player with a Sherpa?
Yes.
Who can avoid that one giant pitfall? I think fine. I think it's great. But because there's that one giant pitfall that's really easy to put into, you fall right into.
Without a Sherpa, Gandalf.
Without a Gandalf, I'd be pretty cautious. If now, let's say that Lizard's Riding Dinosaur is your jam, and frankly, it's mine too. I think it's so cool.
Yummy jam.
So let's say that's the only reason you want to play Warhammer. You love those models. You want to do it.
Okay.
I'm sure you can find guidance online. I'm sure you can go to the Warhammer store and talk to some people. Definitely do that before you get too far into your list, because of these pitfalls. But you don't need a friend that already knows. This information's out there, but we just want to call it to attention so that you know to look for it.
Yes.
Because if you don't, so if you're doing it by yourself and just making things up, this is probably not the best army to start with. A little bit of extra research, I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Any other final thoughts about the Seraphon?
I think we covered it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else to say about
any other pitfalls, maybe.
Yeah, I don't think there's that many other pitfalls. I think all the units that are in this book now have a use, pretty much. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that got cut from 2.0, right? All the cold ones got cut. The salamanders got cut. The sunblood got cut.
I don't know about the sunblood. I don't know what that is.
It's a Saurus. It's like an old blood, but he's sunnier, I guess. I don't know. Let's see. There's the Skink Priest got cut. Not the Star Priest. That's what we have. The old Skink Priest got cut. So there was some nonsense before, but now the new models are all worthwhile, right? Not everyone's super strong in competitive sense, but they're all fun. They're all fieldable to have fun with on the tabletop. And I can't think of any units that are like, oh, that's the garbage trash unit. Don't pick that one. That one's garbage. I think they're all useful in the proper context, right?
Yes.
In the proper list. If you're making a coalesced, if you're making a Starborn list, and you just bring a bunch of Saurus warriors and Agridons, it's like, I mean, fine, I guess. They're not useless, but they've lost a lot of their utility because now in the Starborn list, they're not getting their bonus jaw attacks, they're not getting their damage reduction, right? So it's really really tough. Yeah. So anyway, I think that pretty much covers it. If you've played Seraphon or if you've played against the new Seraphon, definitely let us know down in the comments what you think, how you think the army has changed. I feel like, as with Daughters of Cain, there hasn't been, well, Daughters of Cain had almost no change. So there's been more here. But it's not a revolution, right? It's not like Gloomspite or Nighthaunt, where the way they play now is totally different from the way they played before. You're playing similarly. But a lot of things have been cleaned up. A lot of abilities have been good, have been really tightened. You don't have things that work only against chaos anymore, where you have to remember special rules depending on your matchup. So it's been really good. If you have some experience with Warhammer, I think this army is fantastic. If you have somebody who can guide you past that one big pitfall, this army is fantastic.
Yeah.
So this has been another episode of Battle Ready.
Ready!
Thanks so much for watching.